Welcome, everyone. Uh, Save. Today, I'm going to talk about flat protocol. Save is one of the tokens of the protocol. There is a savings instrument where the exchange rate can only go up, not probably, mathematically. The proof fits in three lines. The equation that governs it has been known to mathematicians for centuries. It is the same function that describes gravitational singularities, black holes, and the event horizon. P equal to C divided by 1 minus alpha. This thread walks through 30 slides that explain what this equation means, why it matters, and what it implies for anyone who wants their money to stop shrinking. No hopium, no projections, just pure arithmetic and its consequences. So, before we get into math, here is what this is actually in plain language. Every fiat currency is an island. Dollars are trapped behind American banks, rupees behind Indian ones, naira behind Nigerian banks. If you want to move value between islands, you pay tolls to the intermediaries. Banks, Swift, Western Union, and you wait days. Meanwhile, every island is sinking, inflation erodes them all. Flat protocol replaces all of it with two instruments. Flat is your checking account. It is stable, spendable, pegged to the real cost of living, and not to a single currency that can be printed into oblivion. It is the bridge between every fiat island. One ocean of value instead of 100 leaking puddles. Save is your savings account. On Ethereum, it is called a ERC4626 token. Its exchange rate can only go up. It earns yield, it compounds, and the math that guarantees this is not a promise from a CEO or a central bank. It is enforced by the immutable smart contracts that no one can change. The engine that powers both works silently in the background. You never interact with it, just like you never see the plumbing inside your bank. You just use flat.cash. 10,000 users are already due, and the protocol is mostly spreading by word of mouth. So you can't buy equity in Tether, but you can buy Save, which is basically equity in the flat protocol. And Tether made $13 billion of profit in 2024 with roughly 100 employees. That is $130 million per employee, more profitable per head than any other company in the human history. And you, as a holder of Tether, you got none of it. Tether has no public equity. There is no stock you can buy. The profits flow to the founders and small circle of insiders. You hold USDT, you provide them with the float they invest, and you receive exactly $1 back. The entire upside belongs to them. Now, imagine a version of Tether where the profits flow to the holders, where there is public equity, where stablecoin does not just hold static dollar peg, but actually gains purchasing power. 24.1% against the dollar over 5 years, because it tracks the real cost of living, not a depreciating currency. That is flat protocol. And Save is the equity in the flat protocol. Every fee that protocol earns, every premium from new issuance, every basis point of carry It flows into the system and accrues to SAVE holders, not to founders, not to VCs, to the people who hold SAVE token. Words are cheap, but here are the numbers. We backtested SAVE against every major asset class using real Bureau of Labor Statistics CPIU data from November 2022 to November of 2025. Not a simulation with made-up parameters. No, it is actual inflation data and actual market prices and actual protocol mechanics applied to the real-world conditions. SAVE returned 332%. Bitcoin returned 341%. Gold returned 158%. Nasdaq returned 110%. S&P returned 76% in the same time period. Berkshire Hathaway returned 72%, slightly less than S&P 500. But here is the number that matters more than the return. The maximum drawdown. Bitcoin's worst peak to trough decline during that period was minus 65. Imagine that drop. S&P 500 hit minus 25 in the same time period. Gold saw minus 12%, and the SAVE's maximum drawdown was minus 8.2%. So that gives SAVE a Sharpe ratio of 3.51, a measure of how much return you get per unit of risk. For context, Berkshire Hathaway's lifetime Sharpe ratio under Warren Buffett is 0.76. It is extremely rare to get a Sharpe ratio higher than 1 or 2. In our case, SAVE is 3.51, and SAVE delivered 4.6 times that of Berkshire Hathaway. Bitcoin gets you $900 more on $10,000 investment, but you had to watch your $10,000 shrink to $3,500 first. Most people sell at the bottom. SAVE never asks you to endure that. So your money is not really yours. 4.2 billion people live under capital controls. That is more than half the planet. Their governments decide how much of their own money they can move, where they can send it, and when. In 2023, governments froze 9.5 trillion in assets globally, not criminal assets, not sanctioned assets, total freezes, including ordinary citizens caught in geopolitical crossfire, bank failures, and policy disputes. The average time to freeze a bank account is 72 hours. That is how long it takes for your life savings to become inaccessible. Not because you did anything wrong, but because someone in a government office decided it should be. If they can freeze it, it was never yours. You were just holding it with their permission. So the silent theft. If someone stole 24% of your savings, you would call the police. But when inflation does it, you barely notice. $100 in 2020 buys $76 worth of goods today. That's not a rounding error. It is a quarter of your purchasing power gone in 5 years. The dollar lost 24.1%, pound lost 24.2%, euro lost 19.5%. Even the yen, supposedly the safe haven, lost 9.4%. These are not projections. These are published numbers from Bureau of Labor Statistics, Eurostat, and the UK Office for National Statistics and Japan Statistics Bureau. Every central bank on earth is running the same experiment. Print money, hope nobody notices. The data says everyone should notice. Inflation is not a tax. It is a confession that the currency is failing. Glass house, right? Every transaction you make is visible to your bank, your government, and anyone they choose to share it with. A doctor buying medication for a condition she does not want her insurer to know about. A business paying a supplier in a country under sanctions, not because the business is sanctioned, but because the payment rails pass through a sanctioned corridor. A woman sending money to her family in a country where receiving foreign currency is a crime. There are These are not edge cases. These are billions of people whose financial lives are conducted in glass house where the walls are made of transaction records. Financial privacy is not a luxury feature for criminals. It is a fundamental human right that the current financial system has quietly abolished. So you're with flat, your cash stops losing value. Flat is pegged to the consumer price index, the actual cost of living, not to US dollar. This is a crucial distinction between Tether uh, or USDC or many other stable coins. When you hold dollars, you are betting that the Federal Reserve will manage inflation responsibly. History suggests that it is a bad bet. When you hold flat, you're holding a unit of purchasing power. If a loaf of bread costs more dollars next year, flat adjusts. Your purchasing power stays constant. Over 5-year backtest, flat gained 24.1% against the dollar, 19.5% against euro, 24.2% against pound, and 9.4% against yen. It did this with 0.22% volatility and a maximum drawdown of just 0.41, negative 4.1, negative 0.41, sorry. The risk-adjusted return, Sharpe ratio, 19.91, is astronomical because flat is a stable coin. It has near zero volatility but positive real returns. That is what happens when you peg to purchasing power instead of a depreciating currency. SAFE's Sharpe of 3.51 is a different metric. It reflects actual investment returns with real price movement, and even that is 4.6 times Warren Buffett's record. Flat does not just hold value, it gains against every fiat currency on planet Earth. Because every fiat currency on Earth is losing to inflation and flat is not. So, what problems does flat solve? That's what we're trying to answer here. Flat solves 4 problems simultaneously. No other digital currency has done this. Inflation proof, CPI pegged, not dollar pegged. Your purchasing power is preserved by construction, not by hope. Private, Ghost Tunnel uses ZK Smart's technology, zero knowledge proofs, to make transactions invisible, not pseudonymous like Bitcoin, where every transaction is on a public ledger. Actually invisible. The sender, the receiver, and the amounts are all hidden. Permissionlessness. So no KYC, no email, no bank account, no identity verification. Anyone on earth with an internet connection can use it. The 4.2 billion people under capital controls, they can use flat without asking for anyone's permission. Censorship resistant. No admin keys, no proxy contracts, no pause function, no one, not the founders, not a government, not a court order, can freeze your flat. The code is immutable. Once deployed, it cannot be changed. The first digital currency that solves all 4 simultaneously. That is not a marketing claim. It's an architectural fact. Under the hood, the protocol runs on a token called Rise. You never interact with it directly. It works in the background, like the engine in a car. You never open the hood to see. But understanding its scarcity explains why Safe's price can only go up. Rise has a total supply of 425 million tokens. At Genesis, only 4.25 million, only 1% are circulating. The other 99% are locked in Safe Vault. So for comparison, Bitcoin has a total supply of 21 million, with 19.6 million, 93.3% already circulating. Rise only has 4.25 million tokens circulating. And so therefore, Rise is 4.65 times scarcer than Bitcoin at Genesis, measured by circulating supply ratio. But here is the difference that matters. Bitcoin supply stops growing. That's a famous feature. Rise's supply actively shrinks every 12 seconds. The accumulator buys Rise from the open market and locks it in the same vault permanently. There is no unlock function. There is no withdrawal. The supply only goes in one direction. Bitcoin gave the world fixed supply, and Rise gave the world a shrinking supply. So, Save is our savings token of the flat protocol, and Save is a ERC4626 vault token. If you know DeFi, you know what that means. If you do not, here is the important part. The withdrawal function does not exist. Rise enters the vault and Save is issued in return. The exchange rate, how much Rise each Save token represents, can only go up. It goes up every time the accumulator deposits more Rise. It goes up every time Ghost Mint sells new Save at a premium. It never goes down because there is no mechanism in the code that could make it go down. This is not a design choice that could be reversed. The smart contract literally does not contain a withdraw or redeem function. It was never written. You cannot call a function that does not exist. Ghost Mint is the only way new Save enters the market, and it sells at a minimum of 1.1 times the current NAV. That is that extra 10% premium goes straight into treasury, which increases the NAV for every existing Save holder. Think of it as the first financial black hole. Assets enter, they never leave. And the gravitational pull, the exchange rate, only gets stronger with time. So I would say the next two slides are the most important slides of this deck. So now for the equation. P of alpha equal to C divided by 1 minus alpha. Three variables, that's all. C is the singularity constant, the treasury value divided by the total Rise supply. It is fixed at Genesis and can only increase as the treasury grows. Think of it as the book value per share. Alpha, we define alpha as the absorption ratio, the fraction of total Rise supply that is locked in the same vault. At Genesis, alpha is 50%, so that means 0.5. It can only increase because the vault has no withdrawal function. P is the price of Rise, which directly determines the value of Save. The equation is not a model. It is not a simulation. It is not a prediction. It is a closed form algebraic identity derived from the protocol's accounting rules. If the treasury holds T dollars and S times 1 minus alpha tokens are circulating, then each circulating token is worth T divided by S times 1 minus alpha, which is equal to C divided by 1 minus alpha. That is arithmetic, not finance. If alpha approaches 1, as more and more rise is absorbed into volt, the denominator approaches 0. And when the denominator approaches 0, the fraction approaches infinity. Not metaphorically, mathematically. So I'm walking through the logic one more time. The total supply is equal to floating supply plus log supply. And we define absorption factor as a log supply divided by total supply. So therefore, if we just turn the equation around, floating supply is equal to total times 1 minus alpha, right? And we know that market cap is nothing but price times the circulating supply. So we put price as a factor, price as a function of alpha, multiplied by the floating supply. So you get that step 4. Now, if you simply move these two variables under C, then you get this equation. Now, the equation P equal to C divided by 1 minus alpha is a hyperbola. It starts gently and then curves upwards with increasing values. At alpha equal to 50% genesis, the multiplier is 2. If you just put that formula, alpha equal to 0.5, you get 2. At alpha equal to 90%, it is 10x. At alpha equal to 99%, it is 100x. At alpha equal to 99.9%, it is 1000x. So as you can see, it grows dramatically. But the truly remarkable property is not the price itself. It is the acceleration, the velocity of price, how fast it changes per unit of alpha. If you just do dp by d alpha, you get C divided by 1 minus alpha. The acceleration, how fast the velocity is changing, is if you do one more derivative of this, you get d square p by dx d alpha square is 2c divided by 1 minus alpha cube. So this means that at alpha equal to 90%, price is moving 100 times faster than at genesis. At alpha equal to 99%, it is moving 10,000 times faster. And the acceleration itself is accelerating. At alpha equal to 99%, the acceleration is 1 million times the genesis acceleration. Every derivative of the price function diverges. There is no order of speed at which the system levels off. This is a true mathematical singularity in the calculus sense. The same kind of singularity that appears in general relativity at the center of a black hole. The closer you get, the faster it accelerates. And there is no mechanism to reverse this direction. So this is the single most important slide here. The NAV of save token, the exchange rate between save and rise, is governed by a simple equation. dNav of dt is R plus rho divided by save tokens. R is revenue. Revenue comes from trading fees, cooler loads carry, ghost mint premium, and liquidation fees. The revenue cannot be negative, and you cannot untrade. You cannot unpay a fee. Or revenue is always greater than 0 for all the time. This is not an assumption, it is arithmetic. Rho is a ghost mint premium. Ghost mint sells new save at a minimum of 1.1 times the NAV. The premium goes into treasury. A premium on a sale above NAV cannot be negative. So therefore, it is always positive. It is only doing a transaction when it makes money. The S save is the number of save tokens outstanding. It is always positive. A non-negative number plus a non-negative number divided by a positive number equals non-negative number. So therefore, the the rate of growth of NAV, d NAV by dt, is always greater than zero. Always, under all conditions, in all markets, in all scenarios, NAV can only increase. And here is the corollary that makes sophisticated investors false. The circulating market cap is basically price times the circulating supply, is constant. It never changes. Price goes from $1 to $1 billion and the circulating market cap stays exactly the same. But that is not how it is going to happen. As the treasury grows, the market cap also continues to grow. So every other asset requires belief, but SAVE requires only a calculator. So volatility is fuel, it is not risk. Every other asset in the world suffers during volatile markets. SAVE feeds on them. The causal chain is simple. Higher volatility produces more trading volume. More volume produces more fees. More fees produce more revenue. More revenue means accumulator buys more rise. More rise lot means alpha increases faster. Faster alpha means faster price appreciation. So the market chaos is not a threat to SAVE. It is the fuel that accelerates it. This inverts everything modern portfolio theory teaches about risk. In traditional finance, volatility is risk. It is literally the definition. For SAVE, volatility is the input to a mechanical process that converts disorder into permanent value. When the next bear market arrives, and it will, Bitcoin holders will watch their portfolios drop 50 to 70%. Stock investors will panic sell, and the SAVE protocol will be quietly converting that chaos into absorption, locking more rise, pushing the price curve higher. Bear markets do not threaten SAVE, they accelerate it. So in traditional equity, when a company issues new shares, your ownership gets diluted. Your slice of the pie gets smaller. This is why existing shareholders dread secondary offerings. SAVE works in the opposite direction. When Ghostmint sells new SAVE tokens, it sells them at a minimum of 1.1 times the current NAV. That means for every $1.10 of value entering the system, only $1 worth of new SAVE is created. The extra 10 cents, the premium, goes directly to the treasury, which increases the NAV for existing SAVE holders. New investors do not dilute you. They pay a premium that makes your existing holdings worth more. The more people who buy SAVE after you, the richer you become. This is not a side effect. It is the core mechanism. Ghostmint is designed so that the growth is accretive, not dilutive. Every new dollar that enters the system makes every existing dollar worth more. The most common objection to any high performing asset is, sure, the price is up, but can you actually sell? The SAVE Ocean, the protocol's dedicated liquidity pool, receives 30% of all protocol revenue. Under the volatility feedback loop, revenue grows hyperbolically as alpha increases. This means the liquidity available for SAVE holders to exit grows exponentially over time. Meanwhile, the circulating market cap of SAVE grows at most linearly, bounded by Ghostmint sales. So the ratio of liquidity to market cap improves continuously. It does not just stay adequate, it trends towards infinity. The protocol does not just provide exit liquidity, it is the exit liquidity. And it gets deeper every single day. This is the opposite of most DeFi protocols, where liquidity mining incentives dry up and the pool slowly empties. And in flat, the pool fills faster the longer the protocol runs. So the revenue engine. The protocol has four revenue streams, and they are all active from day one. Trading fees. Every swap involving flat or rise generates fees. Cooler loans, they have a carry. The protocol holds approximately 14.2 million GOM when we launch, and it generates continuous interest income regardless of market conditions. So the ghost mint premiums. Every new SAVE token is sold at 1.1 times the NAV or higher. That generates premium revenue. Liquidation revenue. When leverage positions are liquidated, it captures those fees. So all revenue flows into the accumulator. The accumulator uses 40% to buy rise on the open market. That rise is deposited into SAVE Vault permanently. Alpha increases, price increases. More trading happens, more fees are generated, accumulator buys more rise. This is a closed loop. Revenue is the fuel, accumulator is the engine, save is the destination, and the loop reinforces itself. Higher prices generate more volume, which generate more revenue, which drive higher prices. The cooler loans carry alone generates approximately $1 million per year with zero users. The engine runs even if nobody shows up. So Ghost Mint is how new money enters the flat ecosystem, and it is designed so that every dollar that enters makes every existing dollar worth more. When someone wants to buy Save, they do not buy it on an exchange. They buy it from Ghost Mint, which creates the new Save tokens at a minimum price of 1.1 times the current NAV. The buyer pays a premium. That premium goes to Treasury, and the Treasury grows. NAV increases for all existing holders. So this is a one-way valve. Fiat enters, it does not leave. The Treasury grows monotonically, and because Ghost Mint always prices above NAV, it creates a natural price floor that ratchets upward with every sale. Think of it as fiat black hole. Money crosses the event horizon and adds to the gravitational mass of the system. The more mass, the stronger the pull. The stronger the pull, the more money crosses the horizon. So everyone wants to know who is going to buy my bags in a bear market. Every asset has the same vulnerability. When fear takes over, buyers disappear. Prices crash not because the asset is worth less, but because nobody is willing to bid. Save has a built-in buyer that never panics, never sleeps, and never runs out of conviction. NAV defense is a protocol mechanism that activates when Save trades below its NAV in the Save ocean. It uses up 10% of liquid reserves per day to buy Save below NAV, providing a persistent bid that prevents the kind of cascading liquidations that destroy other assets. In the 3-year backtest, this mechanism limited the maximum drawdown to minus 8.2%. For context, during the same period, Bitcoin dropped 65% and S&P 500 dropped 25% in the same exact time period. The protocol does not wait for buyers, it is the buyer. And its budget replenishes from ongoing revenue, so it can defend the NAV indefinitely. So the raw returns are easy to cherry pick, but risk-adjusted returns are not. So the Sharpe ratio measures risk per unit of risk, return per unit of risk. Warren Buffett, widely considered the greatest investor in history, has a lifetime Sharpe ratio of 0.76. Save's 3-year backtested Sharpe is 3.51. That is 4.6 times Buffett's return. Sortino ratio measures the return per unit of downside risk specifically, and Save's Sortino ratio is 5.12. The Kalmar ratio measures the return relative to maximum drawdown, and SAVE's Kalmar ratio is 8.3. On every single risk-adjusted metric, SAVE outperforms, not by a small margin, by multiples. This is not because SAVE is better than Buffett. It is because SAVE operates on fundamentally different mechanism. Buffett's returns come from stock picking skill in competitive markets, and SAVE's returns come from a mathematical identity, supply compression against a fixed treasury. One requires genius, the other requires basic arithmetic. So let's say you put $10,000 into S&P 500 in November 22nd, November of 2022. By November 2025, you have $17,550 in S&P 500. But along the way, you watched it drop to 7,500. You needed conviction to hold through a 25% drawdown. Put $10,000 into gold, you have $25,810. Maximum drawdown is 12% minus 12. Better, but gold does not generate yield. But put $10,000 into SAVE, you have $43,200 return and a maximum drawdown of just minus 8.2%. You never had a sleepless night. Put $10,000 into Bitcoin, you have $44,110, slightly more than SAVE, but your maximum drawdown was 65%. Your 10,000 shrank to $3,500 at the worst point. Most people, statistically, the vast majority, sell somewhere during the 65% drawdown. They lock in the loss and never recover. Bitcoin gets you $900 more, but it gives you a lot more emotional stress. The entry price for SAVE token is $1, and that's not a metaphor. One SAVE token costs $1 at launch. So the top 20 tokens from 2021 bull market, and look where they are now. If you look at the percentages, they're all down over 95%. Only Solana, which is like 73%. 16 out of the 20 lost more than 60% of their value. These were not obscure meme coins. These were the top 20 tokens institutional investors held. Billions of dollars simply evaporated. Every single one of these tokens had the same structural flaw. There was no mechanism to prevent the price from going down. When sentiment turned, supply flooded the market and the price collapsed. SAVE has a mechanism. dNAV by dt is always greater than 0. The exchange rate can only increase. The vault has no exit. The supply only compresses. The revenue only flows in one direction. While the graveyard grew, SAVE's backtest showed 332% return with a maximum drawdown of just 8.2%. Not because the market was kind. The same market that destroyed these 16 tokens was the market SAVE was backtested against. But what if the team changes the rules? They cannot. The architecture is designed in 3 tiers of immutability. Tier 1, absolute immutability. The same vault, rise token, flat token, both oceans. None of these smart contracts are changeable. They are immutable. There are no admin keys. There are no proxy contracts, no upgrade path. No one on earth can modify them. Not the founders, not a court order, not a nation state. And then we have a second level of smart contracts. They have a time lock, the accumulator, flat engine, ghost mint. They have a 7-day time lock on any changes and a one-way kill switch. You can turn them off, but you cannot change their behavior without 7 days of public notice. and off means permanently. The kill switch is one way. And we have a tier 3 which is versioned, and each version is immutable once deployed. Migration to a new version is voluntary and no one can force you to move. The entire stablecoin market today is approximately 170 billion. That sounds large until you realize it is 0.1% of global money supply. Global savings and fixed income markets hold $60 trillion. The global money supply, all the cash, deposits, near money instruments on earth, is approximately $150 trillion. Flat is not competing for stablecoin market. It is competing for the money market. Every dollar, euro, yen, rupee, and naira that is currently losing value to inflation is a potential flat user. Every savings account earning 0.5% while inflation runs at 5% is a potential save holder. The ceiling is not even 200 billion. It is 3 orders of magnitude higher. And the protocol is designed to scale without friction. No KYC, no bank account, no identity verification. Anyone with an internet connection can participate. So the next wave of demand will not come from humans. It will come from machines. AI agents, autonomous software that acts on behalf of humans and other software, need money that works for machines. They need it to be programmable, permissionless, no KYC because a machine cannot show a passport, CPI stable because so a payment made today has the same purchasing power when it settles, and available 24/7. No banking hours, no holidays, no weekends. So no existing currency satisfies all four requirements. The dollar is not programmable, Bitcoin is not stable, USDT requires KYC for large amounts, and USDC can be frozen. Flat satisfies all the four. It is the native currency for the agent economy. Coinbase X402 protocol is already building HTTP native payments. The ability for AI agents to pay for API calls, compute, and the data with a single HTTP header. Flat is the natural settlement layer for that infrastructure. The AI economy needs flat because nothing else works for machines. Hold flat, pay anyone, any currency instantly. A user in India wants to send equivalent of 8,000 rubles to a friend in Russia. They do not need to find a ruble on ramp. They don't even need a SWIFT transfer. They do not need a correspondent bank. They hold flat. The system calculates the real-time exchange rate from xe.com with 18 decimal precision, deducts the equivalent flat, and the recipient receives the rubles. No bank, no SWIFT, no 3-day settlements, no 2% credit card fees, no Western Union markups. Every fiat currency becomes a multiplication factor of flat. For example, Indian rupee could be a fraction like 0.8256 of flat, or ruble is another fraction, basically a multiplication factor. And you are able to transfer this instantly to anybody anywhere. What actually is transferring from one user to the other is actually flat coins, but the value is denominated in terms of rubles because each ruble is just a multiplication factor that is applied on the top of flat. This is not a future roadmap item. This is the architecture. Flat is the bridge between every fiat island, and the bridge has no toll booth. So why now? There are three forces converging at the same time, and their intersection creates a window that will not stay open forever. The death of 60-40. The traditional portfolio of 60% stocks and 40% bonds is broken. Bonds are supposed to be the safe half, but when inflation runs above bond yield, bonds lose purchasing power. The safe half of the portfolio is now the half that is quietly bleeding. Investors need a new safe asset. SAVE is that asset. The hollow asset reckoning: 16 out of 20 top crypto tokens from 2021 have lost more than 60% of their purchasing power. The market is learning painfully that the tokens without structural price support are gambling chips, not investments. The demand for crypto assets with mathematical guarantees is about to explode. The agent economy, AI agents are proliferating. They need permissionless, programmable, stable money. No existing currency qualifies. Flat does. The window is open, the math is proven, the code is written. The question is not whether this will happen. The question is whether you're positioned when it does. So, what are we offering? We are planning to raise $100 million from selling tokens, 100 million saved tokens, $1 each. And whatever money we raise, 45% of it will go towards LP tokens and reserves. Nearly half of every dollar goes directly into liquidity pools and treasury that power the protocol. This is the machine. The deeper the reserves, the stronger the NAV defense, the more robust the price floor, and the more revenue the engine generates. And 25% of it will be set aside for marketing and growth, user acquisition, partnerships, exchange listings, and ecosystem development. And we currently have 10,000 organic users as a proof of concept. This is the fuel to scale. And 20% we plan to spend on development, smart contract audits, formal verification, front-end development, infrastructure, and security. And 10% will be spent on operational expenses, gas costs, legal compliance teams, and team compensation. So 45 cents of every dollar goes directly into the machine that makes it work, not into salaries, not into offices, into mathematical engine that drives the price equation. The most unusual thing about this team is that they're building towards their own obsolescence. The founder is a DeFi architect with 8 years of experience who built mathematical framework that governs the protocol. The co-founder leads smart contract security and Satora formal verification, the mathematical proof that code matches the specification. And the lead advisor is an OG Bitcoin investor who recognized the structural innovation early. And 10,000 users have joined organically, zero paid acquisitions, zero influencer deals, pure word of mouth from people who looked at the math and decided it is real. And the governance roadmap has three phases. Phase one is operational oversight. The team manages the protocol while it matures. Phase two is governance transition, control transfers to the token holders. And phase three is ossification. All admin keys are burned permanently. The protocol becomes as immutable as Bitcoin's consensus rules. The goal is not to run the protocol forever. The goal is to make it run without anyone's help. So, SAVE is the first deterministic wealth store. You can enter it today at $1. And in our backtest, it has returned 68.1% CAGR per year. And it has a Sharpe ratio of 3.51, which is extraordinary. And our returns are 4.6 times better than Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. And your checking account that never loses value, your savings account that never stops growing. One system, no bank, just math. If you are interested in buying SAVE token, send an email to team@flat.cash. Thank you for listening and thank you for your patience.